economic travelers. If you remember our discussion a couple days ago, we were taking a look at the concept of exchange, where person A and person B both produce something and they would like to exchange it for something else. In the process of acquiring something worth more than what they have given up. That is a concept known as creating real wealth. And only the private sector can create real wealth. Once again, ceteris paribus, both parties are exchanging and acquiring what it is they believe to be exchanging and acquiring. Both parties are giving up something valued less than what they were getting. In a capitalistic economy based ceteris paribus on our concepts, both parties increase their wealth. Once again, reinforcing it is not a zero-sum game, but rather production and exchange and create real wealth for all members of society as long as they produce and exchange. And as societies grow, which fortunately societies do grow, more and more goods and services can be produced, more and more goods and services can be exchanged, which means more and more and more wealth can be created for all parties within the society, within the means of production and exchange itself. Over time, barter becomes highly inefficient, and naturally there arises something in between where all parties involved in the exchange are willing to accept it, even though it's unlikely they're actually going to consume it, but rather use it to exchange with another party in the future. And that, my friends, is what money essentially is. But there's still a lot of misunderstanding about money. I often hear you guys say, well, I wish I was to win the lottery and I would make, let's say, $500 million. I would be so rich. And I would remind you, well, you could take your $500 million and you could eat it and you could drink it. And then, frankly, you would die, because it is not the money that matters. It is the ability for the money to acquire what does matters. And what does matter, of course, are all those goods and services. That is the difference between income and wealth. It is wealth that matters. And why are those goods and services important? What we talked about in our class, the concept known as utility. And what is utility? Utility is simply that. That is the picture of you or I realizing that, yes, there is ice cream in the freezer, and after we have our steak dinner, we will enjoy some ice cream, and life certainly is good. How did we get that happiness? Through the goods and services. How do we acquire that goods and services? It's because we had money. Once again, how exactly do we have the money? Well, in most cases, we talked about the households and the businesses and the resource and the product markets. And frankly, most of us are going to sell our labor for money and as a result, acquire the goods and services. So, money. Well, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to your great grandparents, and they'll tell you a lot of different stories about what they remember growing up, and they will describe their concept of money using numbers. Numbers and the price system allow all parties to engage in economic calculation. But wow, their numbers really seem a lot different than our numbers. So I took the time and I have found an ability for me to understand that. So it's 1950. I have $10. And all of a sudden, just like Marty McFly, I'm in this case going to fast forward to the future, and I'm going to wonder exactly what is my $10 in 1950 equivalent into 2020. So I'm going to go on that dollar times calculator. That's where it's going to send me. It's called inflation calculator. We'll talk about inflation soon enough. I'm going to put in $10 here. And I'm going to say from 1950, I believe is our number, going way, way back here, to 2012. There we go. And it seems as if apparently whatever cost about $100 today only cost me $10 in 1950. That's what I have to say to that. I wonder what the other way is trying to tell me here. So what did I know? Well, I'll put a number in here just to remind myself. I know I estimated. Estimation is a wonderful tool to use. And here we go. I'm going to say that was about 95 bucks worth of goods and services. Well, let's say that I was to go $10 today. We'll call it 2012. And I was going to Back to the Future myself all the way back to 1929. Well, what exactly would it be able to get me? Back to my calculator. Here we go. $10 today, but in this case now I'm going to go backwards in time. I'm going to go 2012. Of course, I moved the wrong direction. All the way back to 1929. I hope you recognize that particular year in history. And it looks, oh my golly, it looks like my $10 and $2012 is only worth 76 cents in 1929 dollars. What the heck is going on here, people? What is going on? What is going on? Let me go back and document that really quick. So what do we say? About 75 cents. Try that again. 75 cents. There we go. It seems that money from a previous era is worth more then than it is today. Money today is worth a lot less when I compare it to a previous era. What exactly is that? All I can think of is the movie that, of course, anybody like me who grew up on the beach surfing scared the heck of them back in their childhood. And that is this. This apparently is us, just strolling along, looking for a great swell to come on in to enjoy our life. That is you. You are a consumer. And unbeknownst to you, apparently there's something that is called inflation. There it is. And even as we mind our own business, inflation essentially takes our dollar, which is worth 100 pennies, and it deflates it or depreciates it in value. True, it's always a dollar, and it always will be 100 pennies. But it's not the dollar that matters. It is what the dollar itself purchases that matters. Who's in charge of all this? Well, that's a great history story, and that's why you should always pay attention to history. And odds are, of course, that your history teacher skipped this particular section as they focus on some other stuff in history class. There is the United States of America. If you are not aware of it, the United States of America is broken up into districts. Districts, you may ask, concerning what? It is what is referred to as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. It is not in the United States Constitution. Make sure I'm clear about this one more time. It is not in the United States Constitution. Alexander Hamilton, of which I'm sure you've seen the play, however, is very, very disliked historically by certain economists. Alexander Hamilton wanted very much so to control the supply of money in the United States of America. Many of the founders were very concerned that that would lead to too strong of a central federal government. Once again, that is called federalism. Seniors, you recognize that. Juniors, I'll teach you about it next year. How do I get on the Board of Governors, or what from now on I'll call the Fed? Well, as per the Constitution, the President of the United States nominates anyone to be on the Fed, and the Senate confirms. Due to Article 1, that's legislative branch. Article 2 is all about the executive branch. This is a system of checks and balances. Who exactly is the Fed? Well, the Fed is not just a bank. I'm going to refer to it as the Fed is the bank. We put our money in banks. Banks put their money in their bank, and lo and behold, their bank is the Fed. They are the banker's bank. And just like we can earn money in our accounts, even though at this particular point in time it's extremely low, was not like that for your parents or your grandparents. Also, banks can lend money to other banks, but also the Fed themselves can lend money to the banks. The banks themselves would have to pay an interest rate, and that interest rate is called the discount rate. That's going to be the first of a couple of very key terms that you will know by the time we are done discussing the Fed. Now, this, of course, word is in quotations. The Fed is intended to be above politics, but we know that simply is not the case. How do I know that? Because the president is of a particular political party. Odds are they have a particular ideology, whether in most cases Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, or whatever term you would like to use, which means everybody has a perspective on the role of money and the concept of money. So odds are, if you're nominated by a particular president, probably means you have the same sort of philosophy economically and financially about what is called the dollar as that particular president does. So how independent is it? Well, that's definitely debatable, but I do know they make their own decisions, and you rarely ever hear about them unless you read the paper. Now, part of the deal with the dollar today, it is no longer attached to what is called equivalent value in gold. So when there was something called a gold-backed dollar, that means that was a particular dollar coin which had the equivalent dollar's worth of gold associated with it. As you're quite aware of this, for some particular reason, it has always been gold that emerged from all the options of there to be money. Why that is? Only society, meaning that's just the way it is. It's what people wanted. It's eventually what became accepted, and we got used to it. The United States of America used to be backed by a gold-backed dollar, meaning the dollar was worth an equivalent dollar's worth of gold, and you could either redeem it with a piece of paper or a piece of paper that represented that particular gold themselves. Yes, I know you guys probably remember the term Fort Knox. Well, we are no longer backed by gold in any way, shape, or form. It's a great historical story, not for the purpose of this, but feel free to look it up. So at the moment, welcome to the concept of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, or what from now on I will refer to as the Fed. Talk to you soon.